Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy, and we're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're very happy to be here with you today on this Saturday. My Strategy episodes are on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today, we're going to be talking about personal core values. I'm going to talk about these values that we hold, which are our belief system. We're going to talk about ways to discover our core values, talk a little bit about how they affect our decision making, help you define your core values, and ultimately build a solid personal development strategy. Well, again, welcome everyone. So happy to be here with you today. Saturday is a great day of the week to reflect. Keep in mind that any time is a great time to assess your strategy. Now, the My Strategy radio show continues to grow. We're available on iHeart, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and many more digital platforms. So you can go listen to this episode in podcast format if you like, or listen to any one of our other podcasts. You can find me on most social media platforms. My Twitter handle is @HawkinsJohn, and the website is johnmhawkins.com. Twitter handle is @HawkinsJohn, and the website is johnmhawkins.com. And just like anything in life, we need to have a strategy and a plan to help us reach our goals, because the best laid plans don't always work. Now, this week, I am looking for your stories. Do you have any stories on your core values? Perhaps an example, a tip, or a trick that you would like to share with us? You can send it to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. And we do have a live giveaway on the website at johnmhawkins.com, so make sure you go there and get entered to win. Today we're going to be talking about core values. We're going to be talking about the core values that are at the very heart of our identities. We're going to talk about how core values are what you believe, not just what you think. They're these guiding principles that we use in our lives. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to discover our core values and how we can go about using them in making large and small decisions. I'm going to talk about the number of decisions that you make every day. It is a staggering number. And, I think that that's one of those ways that our core values can help. If we have these guiding principles set in our minds, when we make these little decisions on a daily basis, it's going to give us the ability to quickly make decisions based on what we believe in. I'm going to talk about your core value strategy and how we can help you put together a plan. All right, so what are personal core values? I've got an article here by Adam Reed. He says, our personal core values are the very core of our identity. They highlight what we stand for. They guide our behavior, the decisions we make, and the goals we set. Since this show is all about personal development, setting and accomplishing goals, it makes good sense for us to talk about our personal core values. And we don't want to confuse these core values with the companies that we work for. Companies are going to have their own set of core values, a belief system. There can be some conflict when your core value system doesn't align with the company's. Adam goes on to say, when we live our life in line with our personal core values consistently, we experience fulfillment. When we don't, we are likely to feel out of sorts, despondent, demotivated. When we don't know our personal core values, we're likely to violate them, perhaps on a daily basis. Once we violated them, this creates bad feelings that we can't quite put our finger on. And these, in turn, often trigger destructive habits and regressive behavior. Yet many of us go through much of our life without ever taking the time to connect with our personal core values. Instead, we assume those placed on us by society, by family, by peers, or the media. If you've ever found yourself disgusted by something that everybody else found funny, or uncomfortable carrying out some tasks or working for a client that felt wrong to you, but others seemed perfectly fine with it. That was when your core values were giving you a sign. Adam goes on to say that our personal core values can also explain why we are particularly drawn to some people who may share similar beliefs. And whilst we don't warm well to others who we don't believe what we do. Adam goes on to talk about what are some of the reasons core values are so important. Can provide us with clarity of direction. Understanding our personal core values gives us great clarity over the direction we will find most rewarding in our lives. Decision making. Personal core values help us make better informed decisions, both short-term and long-term decisions. Stress reduction. Not only will our personal core values help us reduce decision fatigue, they also enable us to say no, reducing the amount on our plates. Saying no is a hard thing to do. Consistency. They enable more consistent behavior in alignment with our ideals. Fulfillment. Internal consistency and sense of direction increases our sense of fulfillment and contentment. Personal growth. Our core values can inform which learning and development areas we find most engaging. Code for life. They can give us a playbook by which to live every day, particularly helpful in times of conflict and confusion. And in all, awareness of our personal core values is like having a personal North Star guiding us every day in the direction that is most appropriate for us. Core values, I think this is very relevant and pertinent, especially in the United States at this time. There is a big election coming up, and irregardless of which candidate you vote for, and there are many on the ballot, you might find that there's some discord between you and the things that the candidate says. Perhaps the reason for that is that there is a misalignment of your core values and the candidate's core values. So that's another reason why we want to understand our core values, make sure that we know who we are, because when you know who you are, it makes it easier to agree, disagree, and at least know why you agree and disagree with people. Adam goes on to talk about he previously had no idea what was important to him. And he asked, if someone asked him, he'd reel off a list of words that he'd heard, perhaps others had told him were values, but he didn't really have a solid list in his mind. So he went on to investigate them and really try and identify what are Adam's core values. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, folks, is making sure that we know what our core values are. When we come back, we're going to talk about core values are what you believe, not just what you think. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is My Strategy. More comedy live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Right before the break, we were talking about what are personal core values. In this segment, I want to continue talking about core values, and in fact, the entire show is about core values and what those core values are. Now, we are focusing on personal core values, so don't confuse those with the corporate core values that your organization that you are affiliated or work for have. I was reading from an article from Adam Reed right before the break, and he says, why have personal core values? If you recall, Adam didn't really know what his core values were, and he had some challenges when certain things were said. He didn't know why he agreed or disagreed with them, so he went on a journey to try and identify his core values. And we're going on a journey today to try and figure out what our values are. Adam said, knowing my core values helped me in everyday situations, beginning with his morning routine. He said he realized that health was important for him, so drinking water, taking vitamins, and exercise are the very first thing he does, with absolutely no exceptions. He then plans his day to ensure a good balance of activities. The act of planning on paper helps him set boundaries to ensure he maintains that balance. Contribution and growth inform the types of projects, both professional and personal, that he will take on, whilst quality sets a standard for everything he does. He says after you discover your personal core values, they can inform your life choices on a regular basis. They will help you with the goals you set, the projects you take on, your weekly plan, your daily plan, how you spend your evenings, weekends, and holidays. So Adam encourages you to write down your core values. Place them on your mobile phone, your desktop computer, your bathroom mirror, your daily planner, your journal, refrigerator, wherever it makes the most sense. And that's what I want us to think about today is what are our core values? Do you have a list of 10? Could you pare it down to 5, perhaps 3 if possible? If you don't know what your core values are, hopefully by the end of the show you'll have a better understanding. So as I talk about some of these core values, maybe write them down. And at the end of the show, we're going to provide a massive list of core values. I've got about 100 or so. You can see which ones relate to you. I've got an article here by Susan M. Heathfield. She says core values are traits or qualities that are not just worthwhile. They represent an individual or organization's highest priorities. These are deeply held beliefs and core fundamental driving forces. They are the heart of an organization and what its employees stand for in the world. Core values are intrinsic to form the vision of your organization that you present to the world and outside of your organization. Your core values are fundamental to attracting and retaining the best, most contributing employees. But notice how she says, it is what you believe, not think or know. And this is one of those things when it comes time to core values where we have a bit of tension. A belief is something that you believe or you think is true, but typically believe is used with politics and religion. So as soon as we use the term believe with our core values, there naturally is a bit of a bias, and because these are things that the company believes or a person believes, we need to really understand the dynamics, because right away as somebody says they believe something, people generally tend to discredit that because it is not a proven fact. It is not a data point. And so that's what we need to realize is when someone says, I believe this, number one, that core value is a guiding principle for them. It doesn't mean it's necessarily true. The other thing is that it could be aspirational in the sense that just because somebody has a core value and they don't do it all the time, that doesn't mean that that's not one of their values. It's something that's aspirational, something they believe is what they should be doing. Simple case in point is healthy, right? If you say that you're healthy and exercise, and you do it every day, and your belief is that that is the most important thing to do, but what if you went a week without exercising and just eating food that was not good for you? Well, you might look like a hypocrite because your core value and what you are doing does not align. And that's where I think that these are guiding principles. They're things that we can use to guide us, but we don't always live by them. And that's just part of human nature. Susan goes on to say that core values define what your organization believes and how you want your organization resonating with and appealing to employees around the world. So these core values should be integrated in the belief systems. They should be communicated. Clients should see them. Customers should see them. Vendors should see them. We need to make sure they are aware. She says, for example, the heart and core value of a successful small to mid-sized business is evident by how they serve their customers. When customers tell the company that they feel cherished by the business, you know that your employees are living to their core values of extraordinary customer care and service. She goes on to talk about how they are known as guiding principles, as I'd stated earlier. She said these values form the foundation for everything that happens in your workplace. Core values of the employees in your workplace, along with your experiences, upbringing, and so on, meld together to form your corporate culture. Now, this is from a corporate perspective, right? Today we're talking about our personal. So just instead of corporation or entity, put yourself in there. What do you want other people to know about you? What are things that you value? Are you communicating them? So that's the big thing. Are you confident enough to communicate what your core values are? If somebody met you on the street, would they know them? They may or they may not. Core values are powerful shapers of organizational culture. Core values are things that senior leadership use to help develop the culture. These executive leaders have a great deal of power in your organization and set the direction and tone. So as we think about this, you are the CEO of your own life, and it will be up to you to set these core values and ultimately hold yourself accountable. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about discovering your core values. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is My Strategy, and we're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Happy Saturday to you. Right before the break, we were talking about core values and how they are what you believe, not necessarily what you think. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about how to discover your core values. All throughout the show, we're going to be talking about personal core values. We talked about corporations, and just don't think about corporations and organizations. We want to focus on ourselves today. Be a little bit selfish with our personal development. So to help us understand this, I've got an article by Meg Seelig. She says, these are 6 ways to discover and choose your core values. Now, earlier in the show, I said we need to be writing down our core values, and that is your homework for today. By the end of the show, I expect that you have a full list of 10 core values, all listed and stacked ranked. So let's continue here. We've got Meg's article. She says, you just got a raise. Should you bank it for retirement or make your life more comfortable right now? You wanted to get a head start on an important report for work later this evening, but your child had a tough day and could benefit from your attention. Should you prioritize work or family? Meg says life presents an endless series of decisions, both large and small, that require you to make difficult choices. With many factors that are involved, a critical factor in deciding may be your core values. These values tell you what kind of a person you are or want to be, and provide guidelines or even imperatives for your actions. But how do you know what your core values are? So she wrote this blog post to help us. She starts off here by saying, first, what is a value anyway? Values are principles that guide our lives, meaning and allow us to persevere through adversity. According to psychologist Barb Markway and Celia Ample in the Self-Confidence Workbook. She says she loves both parts of this definition. That values stand for our most meaningful ideals, and also that they inspire us to keep going when things get tough. Sounds a little bit like resiliency. She goes on to say, you've probably learned many of your values from your parents, your teachers, your religious leaders, and the society around you. You've probably also rebelled against some of those values at times or changed your mind as you learned more about yourself and your world. But it can be helpful to decide or redecide the top 6 to 8 values that mean the most to you right now, and to have a shorthand label for those principles. That's where the information comes in handy. You know, and how many of us sit down and come up with that list of 6, 8, or 10 core values? I know what my values are, but if I had to list them, I don't know if I could. It's only when I'm put in a situation and maybe I don't feel like I don't feel comfortable that I realize that it's not in alignment, that what's happening is not in alignment with my value system. Other times I hear somebody speak and I'm like, wow, yeah, this is exactly who I am. Maybe it's the core values. She says, if you are not sure about your core values or if you'd like to clarify them, there's 6 options. Number 1, choose your top 6 to 8 values from a wide-ranging list of values. And she gives some ideas on core values. And later in the show, we're going to talk about it. Or if you've got a computer, feel free to Google personal core values and check off the ones that make the most sense to you. She lists a few here like financial security, compassion, health, fitness, nature, accomplishment, creativity, dependability, loyalty, beauty, bravery, gratitude, love, connection, relationship, learning, leadership, survival, self-preservation, security, adventure, family, work, success, calm, freedom, and others. She says now use these lists to select your top 8 values. That's one thing. She then says to think, the second option here is to think of 3 to 6 people you admire or love the most. Consider why they are so important to you. Values can be personified in people that you love and admire. You can also use this simple 2-step process to uncover the values you associate with your significant others and role models. She says identify and write down the 6 people that are most important to you. Write down what their values are, what embodies them. You might list that your grandfather because of his acceptance and love, the wife for her honesty, my colleague for his listening skills, my friend for his loyalty, to name a few. That's a good one, right? Think about the people that mean the most to you. Third option for identifying them, your personal core values, is seek a career counselor. Career values are major determinant of your career choice, work decisions, and career transitions. You may value financial security, helping, being your own boss, autonomy, or others. Seeking a career counselor can help you figure out what you value. Use an online values inventory. She says you can find various online inventories out there. Search for them. Lots of wellness experts and career development folks provide them for free. Observe yourself and learn. As you live your life, be mindful of the choices you make. For several days, consciously put a label on the values behind your key decisions at work, at home, at play. Are there patterns? What can you learn about what you want? What are you willing to give up? What is a non-negotiable in your life? If you experience a lot of dissatisfaction with your choices, you may not be living up to your values. Number 6 is focus on the bitter and the sweet in your life. Dr. Hayes suggests that you learn about your values by thinking back to both the sweetness and most painful moments in your life. These moments could direct you to what you care most about. For instance, what were the peak experiences that might reveal key values? If you won an award for teaching, consider that leadership or motivating others might be significant values. What were the most painful experiences? If you know the pain of being excluded by others, you might realize that compassion is one of your primary values. She says difficult choices and difficult people. Sometimes you have to defend against difficult people. People like psychopaths, extreme narcissists, and other master manipulators who seem to be guided by negative values. With such people, it can be a challenge to stick to the positive values highlighted here in her blog. Then there are people who pay lip service to core values and family values, but whose choices betray their words as just empty rhetoric. Says it's important for you to observe yourself, be honest about what you might keep the phrase core value from becoming cliche. You can't be perfect, you might need to compromise, but do aim for integrity, and knowing your values can help. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about why do you make decisions and how core values can help you do that. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is My Strategy. We're coming live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to the show. My Strategy radio episodes are live on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're talking about personal core values, talking about core values that are beliefs. We're going to talk a little bit about, we were talking about how to discover our core values, how core values affect our decision making, and how you can help define your core values. Right before the break, we were talking about discovering your core values. In this segment, I want to talk about why do you make decisions? Why do you make decisions and how your core values might be affecting your decision making? I've got an article here by Connie Stemmel. She said, do you know that the average adult makes 35,000 decisions per day? 35,000. That's a lot of decisions in a day. And the fun fact that 226.7 of those decisions are based on food alone. But what guides the process behind making the choices that you do? What influences your decisions? She says if you stop to think about why you have chosen your career path or the city you live in, you will realize that your core values start to come into play. Your personal core values are the things that encompass your foundational beliefs. These then dictate your behavior and guide you to make the decisions that you do. Your values are broad concepts that can be reapplied many times over your life and in various situations to guide your actions. I think it's important to pause here. If we make 35,000 decisions a day, every time you make a decision, there's some sort of thinking process that goes on. Well, if you don't have a systematic way of making a decision and you make 35,000 a day, there's a good chance that you could make poor decisions on a daily basis. You know, what if 10% of your decisions are poor, 15% or 20% of those 35,000 decisions? So this is why it is so important for us to understand our personal core values. This is also why in this show we talk about our way to go about decision making, the 5-step process. What we're trying to do here is we are trying to get ingrained into our decision making process so that when a decision needs to be made, that we already have the framework in place and we don't stare at a blank screen and not know what to do. If your core value is being healthy and you say that is something you want to do and every morning you get up and say, this is my core value, when you go to the refrigerator and as this article says, you make 226 decisions on food alone, you've already set the code. You've already set the parameter that you want to be healthy. It makes it so much simpler to make your decision. Same thing when you're putting together your strategy. And that's what is important about personal development. That's why we focus on this, because we want to be better at something. And having these frameworks in place can help us. She goes on to say, your core values are not something that you always choose. Rather, they're feelings and beliefs that operate in the background of your mind and influence your behavior. You discover what your values are through life experiences and during the process of building self-awareness. She talks about this article and how she goes through and gives 100 examples of things that 100 examples of core values. Earlier, I read off some core values, and we are going to cover these core values in the next segment. But for now, she goes on to say, why are core values important? She said, having personal core values is important for personal development because they help you make intelligent decisions that are going to work in your favor by playing into your strengths, wants, and needs. When you look at your career path, personal development, you have to keep your personal core values in mind to help you achieve your goal. Without having to reflect on these values, you simply react to the circumstances by making careless decisions and not making careless decisions that will hold you back in the long run. So she says, for example, let's say that you were offered a job 2 hours away from home. You immediately take it because it's more money. But you don't consider other factors or implications. You will just assume that salary increase means a better life. However, 3 months into the job, you realize the cost of living in the new city is much higher. Your commute is twice as long. You miss seeing your family throughout the week. Without stopping to really consider your personal core values before accepting the job offer, you unintentionally took a big step backwards in terms of personal development. When you're aware of your core values, the road to personal development will be much easier because you innately know what factors in your life you want to focus on in order to be fulfilled. Your goals become clear. You will recognize your passions and what makes you happy, and this aligns with your actions and your skills in order to ultimately be successful. However, as she mentioned above, your personal core values are something that you discover and not something you choose. So how are you supposed to know what these are and therefore live accordingly? She says this may happen by chance. When she was in her late teens, she lived in a rather unhealthy lifestyle, ate fast food, never considered going to the gym, would park herself in front of the television for hours, stay out late with friends, giving her little time to sleep. It wasn't long before the lifestyle caught up. She became ill, and her routine and priorities had taken a quick turn. So she had to make a change. She had to focus from French fries into green smoothies. She had to focus on her love for reality television transition into a love for running. While still she loved to spend time with friends, she turned in that more energy towards family and became mindful and present at family dinners, listening to what was going on in everyone's lives rather than sneaking text messages under the table and rushing out as soon as the plates were cleared. She realized that her core values revolved around physical health, mental health. Discovering the sense of clarity dramatically changed her life. Not only did her diet and exercise regimen change, but she was also better equipped to make everyday decisions and choices in her own life. Now, she says, when she's faced with a large pizza and some cupcakes, she would tell herself, I'll probably regret this later. She knows that health's important to her, and it's easier for her to turn it away. And that's what this is all about. As you make these decisions on a daily basis, we need to have clarity. We need to know exactly who we are, what we stand for. And by having a good understanding of who we are, what we stand for, what our personal core values are, what our beliefs are, what aspirationally we want to be, when you have that framework in place, decision-making becomes a lot easier. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to continue to explore some core values and help you put together a strategy. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy. Happy to be here. Right before the break, we were talking about why you make decisions, how many decisions you make in a day. And that number 35,000 decisions is sticking with me. I'm going to have to research it to see if it is accurate, but I would not doubt it. I'm sure we make lots and lots of little decisions every day. In this segment, I want to talk about our core values and exploring our core values. And if you'll recall, early on in the show, I said you had a homework assignment, which was to write down your core values. Well, in this part of the show, we are going to put together our strategy, and we use a systematic approach here. Systematic approach is first the awareness, aware that we need to work on something. In this case, it's our personal core values. The next thing to do is assess and analyze. By assessing the situation, we can figure out the steps we need to take. So we're going to go through a list of values in this segment. We then need to strategize and plan and figure out our course of actions. So this means that we want to, with regard to personal core values, agree on a list of those. Now, it might be a tentative list, but try and stack rank them if possible, but at least come up with an initial list. And then we need to implement our plan, which means that if it is regarding core values, we need to agree on those core values. Then we need to put them someplace that we will remember. It could be a digital sticky note on your phone. It could be on your computer. It could be a actual physical real-world sticky note. You could write it on your whiteboard. Put it someplace. And then we need support and evaluation. Go through and start to implement the plan, and if we're not living to those core values or we're still not able to make good decisions and we feel some sort of conflict, then we need to change course, figure out why things aren't working. All right, so those are the steps. So here are some of the core values. There are 100 of these core values. So I'm not going to go through all 100, but this should give you a good idea of what core values are. And so the first one is family. Whomever you consider to be family may be your primary value to you because they provide you with support and companionship. Is family a core value? Could be one. Creativity. What if you value being creative? You enjoy using your imagination to solve problems or generate new ideas. Communication. You value communication, which involves not only having information relayed properly to you, but ensuring that your own thoughts are effectively heard by people. Achievement. Accomplishing something in your life or work that is noteworthy, that could be something that adds a unique sense of value. Competition. Are you competitive? Holding a value of competition means that you're able to gain energy through a sense of rivalry, being the most respected in your domain. Self-confidence. Having this value involves being successful in such a way that you recognize your skills are making a positive contribution. Structure. Decision-making. Taking personal responsibility for initiating a course of action. And I'm going to go back to structure because I should read this. Value. Structure involves having a sense of control over you, your surroundings, and exercising discipline to maintain an exceptional level of restriction. Education. Congruence. This involves being true to your authentic self and communicating to others externally. Tradition is important, an important value. 12 is trusting relationships. 13 is service. When one of your core values is service, you find a sense of fulfillment. 14 is responsibility. Having a strong sense of sole personal accountability. Perseverance. People who became very successful have undoubtedly failed more often through their lives. They need to persevere. Consistency. Consistency gives people reassuring in the decisions that they make because they rely on certain process. 17 is humor. As you can see, I've got 100 here, and I've only gone through 17 of them. And of the 17 listed, I think that I value many of those that were listed. And that's why this is hard, because we want to narrow it down to a small subset of values and beliefs. That if you had to compromise, which would you compromise on? So, for example, if one of your core values is tradition, and that is a top value for you, and somebody has you do something that goes against your tradition and you feel uneasy about it, maybe tradition is your core value. If you don't feel uneasy about it, maybe you put tradition as being something that's a core value to you because a parent or grandparent instilled it in you, but it's not that important to you. So that's where it takes time to develop these values, and we're not going to do it in one episode here on this show, but it is going to be something that takes some time. Number 18 is freedom. 19 is confidence. 20 is diversity. 21 is resilience. How easy is it for you to cope with adversity? If you value resilience, you strive to be flexible, go with the flow, and bounce back. Simplicity. Faith. Valuing faith can look different to everyone, but often refers to believing that everything will work out the way it's supposed to. Balance. One of your personal core values is balance. You prevent any one thing from taking over your life. That's a good one, right? Balance? I like that. Happiness. While this may seem obvious, many people don't take the time to truly find what makes them happy. That's an interesting one. Risk-taking. If you value taking risks, you know that if you follow your gut, there's a chance that it will lead to a huge payoff. Imagination. Imagination. Valuing imagination can take a huge advantage to anyone in our fast-paced society. Intelligence. Approachability. People who hold a personal core value of being approachable want others to feel free to come to them with problems. Originality, growth, compliance, inner peace, fitness, collaboration, sincerity, and the list goes on, up to 100 and many more. So those are some of those core values that you may hold. Which ones resonated with you? You're listening to My Strategy. I'm John M. Hawkins, coming live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to help you put your plan in place. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is My Strategy, and we're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, if you're just joining us, we are approaching the end of this episode. But fear not. In case you missed this broadcast, you can listen on iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, or many other digital formats in the podcast variety. And if you'd like to have something covered in this show, send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. Or pick up the telephone, if you remember what that is, and give us a call at 844-MY-STRATEGY. That's 844-MY-STRATEGY. Probably should have you text me because I don't think that many of us make phone calls anymore. In any event, this week we've been talking about personal core values. Been talking about these values and how they are the very core of our identity. They're guiding principles. They guide our behavior and ultimately define who we are. When we live in alignment with our values, we are satisfied. When we don't live in alignment, we regress. And that is why they are so important to us. Now, core values can also be what we believe, not just what we think. As stated earlier, they are guiding principles, which means that they could be aspirational. You might have a core value, and you go against the core value. Does that mean that you are a hypocrite? No. It means that your value is a guiding principle, and you have the opportunity to be resilient, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try to live by those values. Again, personal core values are not just worthwhile. They represent our most highest priorities. They reflect what we believe. They reflect what we want people to think, to know about us. Core values are incredibly powerful because they shape who you are. If they're so important, we should probably think about ways to discover them. Today's show, I gave you an assignment to write down your 8 core values. How are you coming along with that list? Have you got 8 to 10 written down? Life represents an endless series of large and small decisions with small to large consequences. In fact, based on one writer, she stated that we make 35,000 decisions in a day. And having a good set of core values is going to help us make those decisions. We talked about the definition of value, what we have been taught about value from whom? Parents, grandparents, children, friends. Someone's teaching us things, right? So it's important for us to choose our values. And how do we do that? There's a number of ways to do it. You can inventory your values. You can think about those people you admire. Write them down. Why do we make decisions? Core values aren't something that we may choose. It may be something that's just in our core. It is something that we keep in our minds and can help us with our decision making. Lots of core values out there. We went through a list of them, like family, creativity, communication, achievement, competition, self-confidence, structure, decision making, education, congruence, tradition, trusting relationships, service, responsible, perseverance, humor, consistency, freedom, and many more. But those are just lists of potential core values. What I need you to do is I need you to realize that you do not have your core values identified, and I have work to do there too. But breaking this habit of not having them identified and breaking any habit requires that we are aware of that pattern, and then we must consciously prioritize and commit to it. So if you've got your list of 10 tomorrow in your planner, you need to write down that you'll review the list and iterate over that list for the next few days till you have a good idea of what it is. Well, that's all the show we have for today. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time.